Hello, all you lovely, lovely Royals fans out there. Welcome to the Royals Rundown podcast. My name is Jacob Milham, and the guy on the other end of the horn, you already know him, and you may already love him. His name is Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, how we doing this Sunday?
I mean, if you know me and you don't love me, I think that's a you problem, honestly.
Listen, we talk about to errs to be human, right? And,
Yeah.
the Royals are having plenty of errors on their own. But if you want to fix an error in your life, loving Jeremy Greco is a good way to start. Good place to start. Okay, straight up, everyone out there listening, there's no good way to slice the end of this road trip. Mercifully, it is over. Mercifully, the Royals are going back to Kauffman Stadium to face off against the Miami Marlins. So hopefully that is a jolt. But we need to cleanse our palates. We need a little bit of just word vomit and getting all of our feelings out there. Jeremy, how's that sound to you?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah. If you want to make your thoughts known, listen, y'all already know about the Spotify Q&A. You can reach us there. Or you could go over to royalsreview.com. The comment section over there is really strong. Game threads, game recaps, and much, much more. Or you could do your own fan posts. Jeremy and I, that's kind of how we got our start, was in fan posts and making valid arguments and backing it up. So if you want to make your thoughts known, go check out royalsreview.com and make things happen. All right, Jeremy. Well, we're coming to the podcast about 30 minutes after the final pitch in Sunday's loss, 4-0 to the Texas Rangers. I would like you to start us off. The road trip is over. How are we feeling? How do we feel about the Royals?
Yeah, so last time we got together, I was like, hey, Jacob, here's what I want to do. I want to be like, let's look at some positives here. Let's talk about why this situation is not as bad as it maybe feels. And we were recording that one before Wednesday night's game. They had just lost to Oakland in the first game. And I was still pretty positive. I think I was saying, what if they win this series? And even if they don't win this series, hey, they still haven't been swept this year. They've only been shut out twice, and they got Oakland kind of at a weird time. I know everyone's like, oh, it's a good time because they're in the middle of a losing streak. But whenever a team's on a long losing streak, it's like they're going to come out of it eventually. So I was trying to be pretty positive. And I've been trying to be positive, I think, for the last couple, 2-3 weeks of kind of not great play. So I'm having trouble with that right now. Because as we all know, what happened after that is the Royals lost Wednesday's game. So they lost 2 out of 3 to the Athletics. And I said, well, maybe it'll be okay. Go to Texas. They're losing a lot, but they're not on a losing streak. So that should be a real opportunity to take 2 out of 3, maybe get a sweep, get back on track. They had this rough stretch. Now this is easy. This is when they're playing some easier teams. They should get some wins in here. And then they got swept by the Rangers. And they got shut out twice, which means that they've been shut out 3 times in the last week after being shut out once the entire season prior to this. Today's game, they got 2 hits. 2 hits. Yesterday, they got 3.
Okay.
5 hits in 2 games that's not enough. That is an embarrassing effort.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, as I wrote in the recap yesterday, it's not embarrassing to lose to John Gray and the Rangers bullpen. And today, it's not embarrassing to lose to Max Scherzer and the Rangers bullpen. But to lose 3 out of 7 games via shutout, even against good pitchers and good bullpens, you can't get shut out that many times in that short of a span and not be embarrassed.
No, you really can't. This is there's not a single Royals fan out there beating their chest, pounding their chest like we were, this time a month ago, talking about how we were in striking range of the top spot in the AL Central. Now they're at 42-37, and depending on how this evening's games go, if I'm doing my math right, they're out of the wild card spot that they had such a dominant lead at one point. This early season buffer that they built is absolutely evaporated. And it's done so in embarrassing fashion, Jeremy.
And they've got half a season to go.
They do.
There is a lot of baseball left to play. But boy, they are going to have to turn it around, and they are going to have to turn it around fast,
Mm-hmm.
because even when they were playing well, we said, listen, this is a team that has some serious flaws that need to be addressed. And those flaws are going to need to probably be addressed via the trade deadline.
Yeah, that
Well,
is.
if the
Mhm.
team is, if I'm JJ Piccolo, I don't think it makes sense to trade even low level prospects to improve this roster.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because this
no,
roster does not look like it's one, two, even three players from being competitive.
no, like not right now. This is I'll run down the last 7 days and how pitiful things have been. But I do want to echo what Jeremy said via the Spotify Q&A. So Fistifer on the game recap last night actually said the boys need to start some fights. Okay, because this is with we used to be able to say the boys are playing some ball. Well, unfortunately, they haven't been playing ball in quite a while. It feels like. And
Yeah,
that's exactly what Yoni Schwartz said. I'm feeling the same. It's time for the leaders of this team to have one of those infamous players only meetings and reignite the fire in this team. Now is the
yeah.
time before it is too late. And
But
Jeremy, go ahead.
one more thing I want to say though is
Yeah,
that as bad as this team looks right now, this is a team effort
it
of
is.
looking bad.
Yeah.
I have been very pro Rex Hudler uh, at, in multiple seasons, but especially this season. Very pro Rex Hudler. I love the guy. I am very unhappy with the way he. I didn't get to watch today's game, so I don't know what all he said today. But I am very unhappy with the way he approached the last couple of games,
Mhm.
talking about Michael Garcia.
Okay, how so?
To talk about his lack of effort,
Ah,
alleged lack of effort, because honestly, I haven't seen it, because they don't show the guy, walking dejectedly back to the dugout
no, they
after
don't.
a ground out. Okay, so I
No.
don't know what his body language is, but that is such. First of all, it's such a lame thing to do, to talk about a player like that in general. But second of all, it's also very often, and I want to be very clear that I'm not accusing Rex of this, but in the past, it has been a very racist way of
Mm,
approaching the game of
yeah.
baseball. It's always the black players or the Latin players that aren't working hard enough, that don't have a good attitude. Now, again, I am not saying that Rex is doing that. I'm not even saying that Rex is doing that unintentionally, because he's been very vociferously praising NJ Melendez.
Yeah,
Okay,
that he has.
so that's not what's happening here, but it's the same thing as. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. What I am going to say is it's not an area I think we should be going into, and I don't think it's generally speaking something that is very subjective, and it's generally something that has been used in very kind of bigoted and biased ways, and I
True.
don't like to see that brought up.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah, the
I
whole
go ahead.
team looks bad right now. The whole team has some kind of bad body language and some bad outcomes right now. And that's where I want to focus, is on the team as a whole. I don't want to talk about any scapegoats. There are no scapegoats here. There is a whole team that looks bad right now.
Yeah. And I do want to I want to talk about the numbers because we're at the point where like no one is above reproach right now.
Even
Um,
Bobby Witt Jr. is sliding.
yeah, like
He didn't have a
with
hit all weekend,
nope,
or he had one hit.
did he?
Didn't he have a double in Friday night's game?
I don't think so. I think he went over the entire Ranger series. You go ahead and look it up to double check,
Yeah,
but I'm like 95% certain he went over. So let's let's look at the numbers right now. A good OPS that I consider is like 700. Like that's a palatable number in your lineup.
yeah.
There's only 3 Royals batters above that 700 mark in the last 7 days. And that's Kyle Isbell, Freddie Fermin, and MJ Melendez. Everyone else is 661 or worse. Bobby Wood Jr.
Yep.
sitting at 417.
Bobby did not have a hit in the entire series.
Dang.
He had 3 hits in the Oakland series. He had 3 hits in the Dodgers series.
Salvador Perez. I mean, you want to talk about his golden sombrero, Jeremy? That was pretty frustrating to watch, I would say.
Yeah.
And it looked, we're talking about body language. Looks like he's pretty frustrated too.
Yeah, and he's back to. This is something that Rex kind of mentioned yesterday, which I didn't find was as out of bounds. as the Michael Garcia stuff, where it looks
Mhm.
like he's swinging at everything again, which is it calls to mind what they were talking about earlier this year when Salvi was hitting the crap out of the ball all the time. And they said that, the feedback they got from the hitting coaches was that Salvi didn't feel like he had to do it all anymore. So he
Yeah.
was relaxing a little bit. And I really feel like Salvi has unlearned that lesson as the offense has shriveled around him.
Mhm.
It looks like he's trying too hard again. So
Yeah.
if that was the lesson he learned, he needs to learn that like being relaxed helps me save everyone.
Hey, that's some bad habits to unlearn. What, I mean, he had to do that for 7 years now? He had to
Yeah.
carry the entire Royals lineup on his back at times? This is this is just a damn travesty, Jeremy. Like, this
Yeah.
is really, really embarrassing, and I will we give credit where credit's due on this podcast. The naysayers and the pessimistic Royals fans out there kinda looking smart right now. I ain't saying the season's
Well,
over. I ain't saying that, but it's been rough to watch this past week Royals baseball.
one thing I'll say about that, and this is not to criticize anyone, but I got to watch 2 months of great baseball and have a lot of fun with it. So if
Yeah,
this is the end of the 2024 Royals, hey, I got 2 months of fun baseball out of it before everything went to heck.
that's true. That's
And the
true.
naysayers didn't. So it sucks to be them.
All right. And I think it's so disheartening the fact that there were some really good pitching performances in the past week. Brady Singer, Michael Waka, and Alec Marsh, they looked solid against the Rangers. I do want to
Waka
get go ahead.
Waka had me a little. He gave up a lot of hard contact. He
He
got a
did.
lot of help from his defense, but Singer was fine
Yeah.
ish. And
And
again, I didn't get to watch today's game, so I don't know how Marsh did. You're the expert on that one.
Marsh got into some jams. He did, but he also got out of them. Like at the end of the day, what he gave up 8 hits, which is a lot in 5 2/3, but he was one
Yeah,
out shy of a quality start.
yeah.
Like, that's I will take that from the number 5 guy, and that's definitely a good rebound start from him. After that absolute disaster against the Oakland Athletics. So you watched the other 2 games of the series, right, against the Rangers.
Yeah.
So
I feel
what?
like I didn't miss much today, though.
No, you didn't. You did not miss anything. What do we think about Sam Long? So, because today he allowed another home run, another earned run, um, and this was a really rough series from the lefty. And I do feel like the Royals are more quick to move on from these players that they don't have a lot invested in, and rightfully so. And I
Mhm.
feel like Sam Long fits into that. Well, he gave us some good outings. Now let's move on, sort of thing. Like, what do you think? Do you think he's in trouble at all, or is there someone else who should like legitimately be in trouble right now?
The thing about Sam Long to me is that I feel like he's been kind of pushed into an unfair situation.
Hmm.
Yesterday he came in the middle of an inning that was already going very wrong, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to look it up. I believe, yeah, he came in today in the middle of an inning where things were already going wrong. So I feel like he's been the only reliever that they could even rely on a little bit right now. Angel Zerpa
Hmm.
obviously has not been great and completely imploded yesterday. Will Smith has been fine in the middle innings, but no one really wants to give him a shot at some real quality, high leverage innings.
No.
And everybody else has bombed at different points too. So they were like, "Well, Sam Long, you're the only guy who hasn't bombed yet." And then
Yeah.
they went to him and he bombed. So I'm not ready to move on from Sam Long, but this is a bullpen that is badly in need of a stopper. We talk about a rotation guy as stopper, like Seth Lugo has kind of been for the Royals this year,
Hmm.
who goes out there and says, I'm giving my team a chance to win. I don't care how bad the things have been. And he goes out there and does that. And we need someone like that in the bullpen. We don't have anyone like that right now. As I talked about, during the offseason, that I couldn't ever complain about Quattro's bullpen usage last year because what good choices did he have?
Right.
And right now, He again doesn't have any good choices. There are no good choices in that bullpen. I think some of those guys are going to bounce back and be good again at some point, but none
Mhm.
of them are right now. And so I I can't blame any of them, and I can't blame Quatrero. It's just kind of a mess all around.
Yeah, and that's the offense was bad. It was offensive, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I also can't. The other thing that's I want to give the bullpen a little bit of leeway on is there are no low leverage bullpen innings right now because the
No.
offense is doing nothing.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. There's
So
like it
there's
that's
no
kind of
there's
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
There's no opportunity for them to kind of work their way back in to find their footing and go, okay, let me just throw some strikes here because it doesn't matter if I give up a couple of runs. There are no opportunities for them to find their way. There's no opportunities to take a breath right now, and that's just not a position that I want anyone to be in. But this bullpen is just these are guys that are struggling and they're not getting any slack to bounce back from.
No, there's absolutely no room for error. And I do I do want to say I'm stealing this from Josh Vernier because he makes a good point. Any baseball team needs to find balance. So for example, the lineup being average or slightly below average in many aspects was fine as long as the rotation was elite and the
Hmm.
bullpen was at least slightly below average. Well, now we're seeing some issues in the field. So that is one facet of the game that the Royals are struggling at right now. I think now they have 19 errors in their past 26 games as a
Yeah.
team. Like that is not good. Their base running used to be their calling card. Well, first off, it's kind of hard to get stolen bases when you
Famously
can't get
cannot steal first base.
yep, can't steal that one. And then of course Michael Garcia got caught stealing today as
First
Dairon
time this year.
Blanco. What yep, first time this year, but also the first time that the Rangers catcher today cries Kinzer, I think is how you say his name. That was the first runner that he caught stealing all season. He's now like runners are now 16 or 15 for 16 against him, with Michael Garcia being that only issue. So just it feels like this is an unlucky run. It feels like this is a bad run. We can try to be optimistic and talk about all the hard hit balls at the wall that Vinny
Hmm.
Pasquantino and Bobby Wood Jr. had on Saturday. But Sunday was just such a downer of a game. The Royals are on the wrong end of history as Max Scherzer ties Greg Maddux on the all-time strikeout list. I think what
Yeah.
he's sitting at 11th right now. Jeremy, I'm so ready for this team to be back home in Kauffman Stadium. Hopefully, get back into a routine and just see what can be done right now. Because
Yeah, that's sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's kind of where we're at right now. Is every baseball team, every aspect of a baseball team is going to have rough stretches where the defense isn't working, or the offense isn't working, or the pitching isn't working, or the starting isn't working, or the relievers aren't working well. Or the thing that has kind of defined the Royals the past few years is that when they go through those stretches, a nothing is working, and b they last a really long time. So this is the first time this year where the bullpen and the lineup are just not doing anything, and the rotation has been fine, but not good.
hmm
We're not even getting the quality starts because guys aren't getting deep into the game right now. Nobody finished the sixth inning in the Rangers series. So the big question, if the Royals are going to turn this around, is how quickly can they find their way out of this slump? The
Yep.
offense or the bullpen, at least one of those, has to get very, very hot, or both of them have to get hot, and they need to build up some confidence again because they clearly don't have any right now.
No, they don't, and it is frustrating because one after that stretch against some of the top teams in baseball, we thought they were going to get a breath with the
Right.
Athletics and the Rangers, and they absolutely didn't. Now, as we sit here today, they have less than a 30% chance of making the playoffs. Period. Like it has just taken an absolute
It's Fangraphs,
nosedive.
right?
Which is, yeah, according to Fangraphs.
Baseball Reference still has them over 50% for whatever that's worth.
Okay, all right. Well, hey, that's good. That is certainly something. But I, you have the last place Marlins coming into Kauffman Stadium. They have a 27-50 record. I think with how bad this stretch on the road has been, if you lose that series against them, it's over. Like the fan
Yeah.
base is going to give up on this team. Do you agree, Jeremy?
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, that's the point when JJ Piccolo has to go, well, does it even make sense to add to this team? Or should I start shopping Michael Walker after all? And that's when I'll get annoyed because that's when all the people who are like, the Royals were always going to be sellers at the deadline are going to go, see, I was right. And I'm going to be like, well, I think it has more to do with how bad they've been recently than
Yeah.
that they were always going to do that. I don't think it always made sense to do that. But if they're going to play this bad for an extended period, then yeah, it does make sense at that point. Some people think Seth Lugo is going to get traded. That's probably not going to happen because he's still under
No.
contract for next year. And I
Exactly.
think JJ Piccolo is going to reasonably look at this team and go, okay, well, they were really good for a while. Maybe this offseason we can find a couple other pieces and get a whole season of good.
Hmm.
But so I think that's the reality you're looking at there. But you'd be looking at trading, all these other guys who have contracts expiring this year, such as Waka Renfro if he can hit again after
Yeah.
this injury, whoever else. But they they need at this point to the year. I haven't said they had any need to win games, having just finally been swept for the first time and having lost 6 of their last 7, and I think 7 of their last 9. The Marlins series to me is kind of a you better win 2 out of 3. You're at home. The Marlins are bad. If you don't win 2 out of 3, you've thrown away your chances because then you've got the Guardians coming to town for 4.
Yeah.
And if they can't take 2 out of 3 from the Marlins, I don't. The sweep against the Guardians feels like a real possibility,
It
and then
does.
you're really down in a hole.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you've gone from a couple games out of first place to 10 games out of first place.
And that is going to be more of like, well, this is kind of how the Royals are sitting ahead of every single All-Star game. So I'm feeling better after venting with you, Jeremy. So I do appreciate that. If y'all want to vent with us a little bit more, you can drop it in the Spotify Q&A. Let us know your thoughts. We'll read them on the next episode. You can go over to royalsreview.com. I am sure that the rumblings tomorrow are going to be absolutely popping off.
Yeah, I wrote the recap yesterday and I checked
Yeah,
it for the comments this morning. And usually, like on a really good game, there's probably 50 or 60 comments this year. And on a bad game, there's like 10, 20. There
yeah.
were over 100
Woo!
comments from people just really unhappy with this team right now. So I know everybody out there is like ready to vent.
Yep. So go join the crowd over there. It's a good time. It honestly is. So like we said, let's see here. Going to the going against the Marlins, Cole Reagans, Seth Lugo, and Brady Singer against the Marlins should be good. So man, like I really want to say, hey, I think they can sweep them. I think they can, but not with this team that I've seen the past few days. And Jeremy, I don't know about you, but I just think the most disheartening thing is there is no there's nobody on the farm to like look forward to and say, hey,
Right.
they can help. They don't even have to fix it. They can help this squad right now.
Yeah.
Like you can Steven Cruz didn't even get to throw a pitch during his
Yeah.
time up with the Royals. Will Klein, time and time again, even if he looks solid, he's not getting a chance in Kansas City in 2025.
Walter Pennington still
Yep,
not here. Drew
exactly.
Waters got called up. He got an infield single and several strikeouts.
Yeah. And that was the guy that everyone was looking at and saying
Yep.
he is going to help this outfield, and it just did not
I
materialize.
think there's an argument to be made that, especially with Isbell and Frazier both hurt now, somebody's got to go on the injured list or somebody's got to get demoted.
Yeah.
and maybe we see a John Rave or a CJ Alexander. But again, I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to be significantly better. It's
Oh,
just, that's just about, well, let's see what happens. The only guys I'm excited about right now in the farm system are Gavin Cross and Blake Mitchell, and they're not close to ready.
no,
Like
they are
Gavin
not.
Cross, you could maybe see in September, but
Mhm.
even that would probably be pushing it.
Yeah, that would he would need to get hot really, really fast. Yeah, Adam Frazier with that sprained thumb. Joel Goldberg said they suffered that when him and Garrett Hampson collided in the outfield on Saturday's game. That could have been much, much worse than a
hmm
sprained thumb.
Though
That
a
was
thumb is really important for swinging a bat. That actually could
well,
have him
yeah,
out for a while.
yeah, for sure. I'm just saying, like it was a very close call. Two guys running at each other and then sliding in like directly towards each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go on the IL. I just don't know who they would call up to replace him. I really don't. Um, maybe I don't even want to
The problem
speculate at this
the
point.
problem with Walter Pennington and John Rave and CJ Alexander is you got to kick someone off the 40 man.
Yeah,
And the Jake Brents should be off the 40 man. There's no
he
reason
should
to
be
have him there.
absolutely.
But also, Chris Bubich is about to have to come back on the 40 man. And he's actually an opportunity for an upgrade. I think again, my preference would be for Chris Bubich to rejoin the rotation and for probably Brady Singer to go be in the bullpen. And I think he could be the stopper in the bullpen.
Okay.
That would be my one thing that I'm like, this could do the thing. Because I also think Brady Singer can be a multi-inning stopper in the bullpen.
Yes.
Watching him pitch, was it Friday night? I think he pitched Friday. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it was
Walker pitched
Friday.
yesterday. Watching him pitch Friday, man, he mowed through the Rangers for three
Yeah,
innings. And then when it was the second time through, that's when he ran into trouble.
correct.
If you've got Brady Singer sitting in your bullpen and he can go 3 innings every 2 or 3 days, that gives you a bullpen stopper.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think that might be where we need to go right now. I think the bullpen needs him more than the rotation does.
Okay. I do like that idea because it is I I don't know why I didn't even register this for some reason. Four righties and one lefty in the rotation. Let's get another lefty in there, and I do like that
Sure.
idea for Chris Bubich being that guy. Also, I'm really hopeful that Michael Massey is going to make his return. Maybe that's the move. Maybe they put Adam Frazier on the IL and just replace him with Michael Massey.
Yeah,
And
I think that's almost certainly what's about to happen,
yeah,
honestly.
okay,
Because
okay,
Nick Lofton has done nothing to deserve getting demoted. Like we said, Frazier's hurt with a sprained thumb. You do not want to rush him back, and he's not been playing well enough that you're like, oh, we're really gonna miss his bat when he's not there.
yeah.
So just put him on the injured list. Then you've still got him. You haven't cut him, so you can have him back if you want him or you need him.
hmm
But then you get that roster spot.
Yeah, I do want to get your thoughts on this because I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Dairon Blanco.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a whole lot of him
No,
in
well, the
a
problem
couple
the
weeks.
problem is that Dyron Blanco's best role is as a pinch runner in a close game. They
True.
they haven't needed a pinch runner in a close game because they haven't
Okay.
had runners on or the games haven't been close enough.
That's fair. That's fair. But when he was getting starts is when, the Royals were doing good. Like that was a correlation, not a causation. But he had two strikeouts today. He's not producing. He's not putting balls in play as
Mhm,
much, which is for him. If a ball's in play, he has a chance at least, even if it's just a routine ground out or
mhm.
a routine grounder to shortstop. He has a chance. Adding 176, he's not drawing any walks anymore like he was earlier on in the season. He does have three options remaining. I just if they're going to prefer Hampson in center field, then why do you have Blanco? That's just my thoughts. But you're absolutely right. That is where his value is as a pinch hitter and a pinch runner, and they haven't needed him in those situations.
No.
Hard to criticize that. Were you gonna say something?
No, I was just saying, yeah, I was
Oh,
agreeing
okay.
with you.
My bad. My bad. All right. I'm feeling better again. Anything else to vent about?
Mm, I feel like I had something, but I forgot what it was.
It
I don't
happens.
know. It's really frustrating right now, which is frustrating in how normal that feels as a Royals fan.
Yeah, yeah. This is certainly not unfamiliar territory for any Royals fan out there, and that is a sad fact. If you do want to like experience some winning baseball, go check out Omaha. They're doing really good things. They're 49-23, um, and they're facing off against the Louisville Bats. And Daniel Lynch is taking the mound tonight, so I would highly suggest going and checking them out, giving them a watch because there are some good and fun players to watch down on the farm right now. You spoke about Blake Mitchell, you spoke about Gavin Cross. Both those guys are doing good things, and many more. Zach Miller talked about some of them on our last podcast episode. Zach writes for Farm to Fountain, so go check out their work on more of the farm hands down there. Jeremy, I genuinely don't have anything else. I kind of want to do the Spotify Q&As, see how everyone else was feeling after our last episode, and we'll do our reviews. Does that sound fair to you?
Yeah, I was hoping the Royals would be good enough that we could have a fun time talking about my City Connect ranking yesterday, but
Yeah.
I don't think my heart's really in talking about that too much, other than to just reiterate that the Rays have a nearly perfect City Connect uniform. One positive that I took from that is that the Dodgers are actually on their second City Connect, so I hope the
Mm-hmm.
Royals get a better one next time. I know some
Okay.
people think they're okay. I think they're boring as heck, so I would like to see something else next time.
Honey's gonna have some words for you. You know that, right? She
What's
she
that?
loves those City Connect jerseys.
Well, she can have them.
I was saying how you love the dark blue City Connect jerseys with, yeah. Jeremy's saying that they're not even okay.
They're so boring. I just there's so many bold choices you can make when you're going with a City Connect, and so many bold choices that were toned down or just didn't happen at all. And that's my biggest complaint about the whole thing.
Okay. Well, if you want to check that out over at royalsreview.com, I'll drop the link down in the podcast description below. Let's get back to some of the happier times of Royals fandom after our last episode where we talked about is Bobby going to have a Gold Glove and an MVP season. I asked you on that episode, who do you think is the most underrated player on the Royals right now? Royal Rupert said Seth Lugo. He is an artist. We are witnessing one of the greatest seasons by a Royals starter. And Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Rupert's totally off base here.
No, certainly by pitcher wins, which we all
Yeah.
acknowledge is not a useful stat, but
Mm-hmm.
is a fun one. He's already got 10.
Yeah.
He could be a 20-game winner, and the Royals might win 80. Um, he's been far better, I think, than any of us thought was reasonable to expect.
Oh yeah.
Um, and he doesn't do it by blowing guys away. He's not flashy, but I'm going to say this and people are going to either jump on my case or agree with me in a way that makes me uncomfortable, but a little tiny bit, he reminds me of Greg Maddux in just that he goes
Ooh.
out there and he's like, I'm going to get you out. I may not strike you. And Greg Maddux got more strikeouts.
Of
But
course. Of
Seth
course.
Lugo, he's got that strikeout ability in him when he's going good. So he just goes out there and he does his job and he's not flashy, but gets the job done.
Exactly. Exactly. Moving on down the line, Christopher said Freddie for me, and he's ready to be the everyday catcher. And then he also had a note for Honey here. Avert your ears, children. Quote, fuck the Phillies.
Oh
Is
no.
what Christopher said
Oh
there,
no.
Honey. Yeah, I know. Isom Benson says Angel Zerpa, sub 2 ERA. Bullpen makes me nervous every time, but Zerpa not so much when he's out
Hmm.
there. That didn't end well,
Yeah, about
unfortunately.
that.
Yeah. Dylan simply says Freddie. And thankfully, there's only one Freddie on the team, so we know he's talking about Freddie Fermin. Luke 57 says Freddie Fermin. Even with the love he's been getting, I can't believe we have a backup catcher that is this good. Really helps Salvi stay fresher. I do just want to point out.
Yep.
I think Freddie's gotten so much better behind the plate, just receiving the ball. I know that sounds strange, but it is an important skill for a catcher. You're not just catching. You're receiving the ball.
Yeah.
And then last entry here, Seth says Isbell highlight catch after highlight catch with a few clutch hits. And last week, he is the only Royals player with an OPS over 1,000. Kyle Isbell, the best Royals batter over a calendar week, believe it or not.
I do have to point out that the two most embarrassing offensive outputs by the Royals this year came without Kyle Isbell in the lineup.
Interesting.
We
Very
had no Kyle
interesting.
Isbell Saturday night. We had no Kyle Isbell Sunday afternoon,
That's true.
and the Royals didn't get any hits.
Maybe he is the key to all of this. Which
Maybe.
which sometimes it doesn't make any sense, and sometimes that is just the case. Like there's one guy who brings it all together, and maybe it's Kyle Isbell.
Yeah.
I haven't heard
I
any updates on his lower back tightness. I think he's still dealing with that.
Yeah, I have been a big Kyle Isbell defender all year long. I think what he does defensively in center field cannot be understated. Even though I will admit that Garrett Hampson looked pretty good out there
Yeah.
Saturday night. Um, Having Kyle Isbell out there and then just like he doesn't get a lot of hits and he bats ninth, and that's where he should be batting. But every
Mhm.
once in a while, he gives you something a little special. Just often enough to make you go, well, okay, if he's gonna bat ninth, that's fine.
Yep. And reports are saying that he could return to the lineup as soon as Monday. So that would be a good return and a good bounce back. I know the Michael Massey lower back stuff has us all kind of nervous, like, oh, well, is this a long term or short term thing? Thankfully, it sounds like a short term thing for Kyle Isbell. One more note, Jeremy, before we get to the reviews, because I do want to clarify this. Matt Quatrero was not managing on Sunday. Right,
Yeah.
he's dealing with a personal matter and he's away from the team right now. Now, I assumed when I saw this Sunday afternoon, I was like, okay, this is probably a one game thing. He's just taking care of something. And he'll be back with the team on Monday. Any Rogers reports, quote, it is not immediately known how long Quatrero will be away from this club. So we had Paul Hoover for 5 games last year. We had him today as the interim manager, but that is certainly something to keep an eye on. Even though there's certainly going to be folks out there that are celebrating the fact that Matt Cotrero is away from the team, even if they don't have any damn facts or anything to back up the fact that Matt Cotrero is a bad manager. He ain't
Yeah.
perfect, but he ain't a
Uh,
bad manager.
a manager's most important job isn't during the game. So he's already kind of set a tone and established kind of a general strategy. So I
Mhm.
don't think the team is going to suffer or just suddenly do better without him. I think things are going to be mostly the same.
Yeah.
Like if my boss takes a week off of work, I don't suddenly change how I do my job. And I don't think that's true of the players either.
Well, I will say, Jeremy, that if my boss takes a week off of work, I'm trying to finagle my way out of work early every single day of that week. That is going to
Well, then maybe
change how
that's
I
what the
work.
Royals' problem was today.
They were trying to get on the plane early, head back to
They were
Kansas
like,
City.
let's just get manager's not here. Let's just call. Let's just phone it in today.
I will say today was a very, very quick game, 2 hours and 5 minutes for today's game.
Woo.
So they were ready to get to the airport and get back to Kansas City. All right, Jeremy, let's go ahead and do some reviews, shall we?
Yeah,
All right. Would you mind kicking us off?
sure thing. So my review this week is please, for the love of everything, watch the interview with Reggie Jackson from the
Mm,
Thursday game at Rickett Field.
yeah.
The oldest
Rickwood.
Rickwood, sorry, excuse me, Rickwood Field. The oldest stadium in the league. They replaced their Field of Dreams game with a game there, and it hosted some Negro Leagues games back in the day. And the Negro League's kind of been in the news a little bit more this year with the recent kind of official induction of some of the stats from that league. And so Reggie Jackson played some games there, not in the Negro Leagues, but for I think a minor league team. I can't remember. And he talked a little bit about his experiences as a black player. And I think it's worth remembering just that, like, there are people alive now, still alive now, who were adults
Yep.
when before the Civil Rights Act was passed, and after the Civil Rights Act was passed, when things were still very bad and people were ignoring laws, and they remember how awful it was. And so when we talk about, like, how poorly people were treated, I think some people want to pretend that that black people were treated. That was ancient history. We don't need to think about that. We don't need to worry about that. People still alive now,
Mm.
we're participating in that, or we're feeling the effects of it. This is not as ancient history as some people would like to pretend, and as some of us sometimes forget that it was. Like, I forgot. When I watched that interview, I was like, oh man, I forget how recent this was, even as I try to be aware of it. So watching that interview, and kudos to the broadcast team, both the on screen talent and the behind the screen talent, that kind of let him say his piece, and didn't try to soften the
Yeah.
blow, and didn't try to redirect him, and just let him go. And thank you so much to him for standing up and telling the truth of his experiences. And it was just a very powerful speech, and I hope everyone gives it a listen and really thinks about what he was saying, and the experiences that he endured, and that some people probably are still enduring to some degree to this day.
Yeah, and that was a really somber moment in the Rickwood Field game. Is Willie Mays had just passed. That is where he made his first mark in professional baseball, was at Rickwood Field. So that was kind of the focus, but it was very much a, like, hey, let's remember the good stuff from this period. And Jackson's, not spiel, but what Jackson said did provide a lot more context and more of the levity that we needed to know to appreciate what was going on. And it's crazy to think that my in-laws were kids when, like, segregation was still a thing. Like,
Yeah.
it was not that long ago, folks.
Yeah, my
It's
grandma, who just passed last year, was alive and watching baseball and a fan of the sport when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier.
wow. That's insane to me. That, whew, goodness. I just got a quick review. Jeremy, you and I were talking about it before the podcast. I just wanted to, if you don't have like a Kindle Paperwhite, if you're a reader, you're doing yourself a disservice. I get it. Having a physical book in your hands is very pleasing. It's very, if you're a tactile person, that is important. But this little Kindle Paperwhite, I could just toss it in my uniform. And if I don't have any service, or if I just need to unwind for a few minutes, pull that out, read a chapter in my book, and just keep it moving. I've read so many more books this year just because of having a Kindle has made it much more easy to carry it on me. And the thing has a battery life of like a week. Like, I don't charge this thing except for maybe once or twice a month, and it will last for
Nice.
freaking ever. So they are a little on the pricey side. I remember, like, back when the first generation came out, they were like $100 or something. I think they're like 180 brand new. They're honey just reminded me, you can find a bunch on Marketplace. That's where we found ours. So go get a Kindle Paperwhite, try it for yourself, and if you don't like it, give it to a reader you love. Jeremy, any closing comments before we get out of here?
I hope the Royals start playing some ball again real soon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was going to close out the show with saying. I'm hoping that when we come to you Wednesday evening and record the podcast again, we're talking about some Royals wins, we're talking about them bouncing back and maybe sweeping the Marlins. But for right now, it's kind of sucks to watch this team. Go prove us wrong, boys. Once again, my name is Jake Milham. He is Jeremy Greco. You can follow us on social media down in the podcast description below. Go check out royalsreview.com. You can also find them on X and Facebook at Royals Review. Thank you so much for listening to us, and until next time, oh, Royals.